Hello, everyone. I have Kait Stephens with me on the call today. Um, this is part of our podcast CX Marvels, and we talk about great customer experiences. And today we have none other than Kait Stephens. She's been running this business called Brij, and her startup is extremely popular amongst DTC brands. And she has been gracious enough to give us time for today's podcast and share her nuggets of experience on how to deliver great customer experiences. Hi, Kate. We are great to have you here today.
Hi, Sachin. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Uh, so thanks a lot, Kate. So just for all the viewers, all the listeners, for today's podcast, we're going to focus on the significance of delivering great customer experience, um, and uh, and we want to learn from your experiences, Kate. So I'm going to just dive straight in. So we'll start with understanding omni-channel retail. Can you explain by what do you mean by omni-channel retail and why it's crucial for modern businesses?
Sure. So I like to think about omnichannel from the consumer lens. So the way that we would define omnichannel and omnichannel retail is that you are available for your customer to shop wherever they want to shop. So that means in store, online through your owned channel, through online through Amazon, in Target, in Walmart, now through TikTok Shop. So the way that we think about omni-channel retail is allowing your customer to shop and giving them the best customer experience wherever they want to shop. Uh, there's like a lot of challenges from both an operational and kind of a marketing and a customer experience perspective to actually get there. But that's kind of how we think about what omnichannel retail is.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that, Kate. So can you give us successful examples of omni-channel retail experiences, some of the brands that have been able to execute it successfully?
Yeah, so perhaps like I'll also talk about like what is not a good omnichannel retail experience.
Yes.
If you think about a customer's user flow, as the journey is that you are often doing your research online, you're going in store, maybe you're learning about a brand from emails that you've signed up for because you believe in those. And then maybe a brand email tells you that they're live in Whole Foods now, and so then you go to Whole Foods to check out their new product. That all becomes kind of part of this omni-channel journey. Someone that an example of it not done well, I was shopping for shoes the other day, in store, and they didn't have my size in store. And so what a better omni-channel experience would be is if they were like, oh, we don't have your size, like, here, we just ordered it to your home. They turned me away and they're like, you can go online and purchase those shoes. That is a bad omni-channel experience because that was just broken. Like, they had me as a shopper that wanted to purchase right then, and they lost me because they, sent me away to go online. And so the problem there is, online and in store or, physical retail are thought about completely separately. And that's a really big challenge. A good, omni-channel experience is when someone is thinking about those like in a harmonious way. They don't care about whether you are shopping online or in store. And the teams internally are set up to, support that alignment. So one brand that we work with that I think does an excellent job is Health Aid. They're the kombucha brand. They have a really strong digitally native presence, and they definitely think about, how that owned customer relationship is really important. But the majority of their distribution is through retail. So they're also, acutely aware of that. So they need to, be supporting a customer's desire to purchase their product in store, but they also care about educating the customer from their owned channels. So, some of the things that Health Aid does is, they're using Bridge to educate the customer with, different content about what kombucha is, and how it's important from a gut health perspective, because that's not necessarily the most intuitive thing. So they're educating you with digital content. Their products often sold and discovered through stores is where often the consumer is purchasing the product. So there's a Bridge QR code that you can like do this education. They can collect more data about the customer, so that they're then bringing the consumer into their email flows and further educating the customer to allow them to shop, whether it be from their owned D2C channel or from retail. But important, I think critically important to being a successful omni-channel brand, is setting up, like, structurally, your team to understand that, this consumer is shopping across all channels. And, to further articulate what I mean, it means that the e-commerce team works together and has shared goals with the retail team. Those two things cannot be separate. And historically, and I, talk to brands all the time who are like, you know what? I'm the e-commerce team. I don't care about retail. So that's not in my purview. Or, conversely, the retail team is like, hmm, no, I only care about driving sales in retail. I don't care about, collecting emails. That's only for the e-commerce team. That is fundamentally flawed. When I like hear stakeholders talking like that, it immediately puts up red flags for me that, like, they are not going to, like, that's not the way consumers shop anymore. And I know we're talking about like consumer expectations. So later on, so I won't go too far into it. But my conclusion here is to have a successful omnichannel retail experience for your customers, you need to set up your teams to have shared alignment across e-commerce, retention, sales, shopper marketing, so that they have these shared goals of giving the consumer an omnichannel experience.
Yeah, I hear you. And I believe that I actually, it's so important to get this omni-channel experience right. Um, Otherwise, you're going to lose customers. I remember when I was in New York in April, I went to Calvin Klein, and even big brands like Calvin Klein don't do this right. And I was looking for a jeans that did not fit me. I just wanted a different size, and they did not offer me an option, rather turned me away, saying you can buy it online, and I did not.
Mhm.
Simple things like these, if done well, can not just lead to customer delight, but also a customer not being turned away. And I think it's great what you're doing with Bridge, because it actually helps provide delightful experiences. So on that note, actually, I know that you covered partly about what Bridge does, but um, would love to double click on this. Like, how does Bridge help brands bridge the gap between online and offline? And could you give us like more examples of the same?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess just, stepping back a little bit more about Bridge, as you appropriately, mentioned, Sashin, the name Bridge comes from being a bridge between the offline and the online, a brand and their customer. And so, part of that comes from was actually investing in the space prior to starting Bridge. And I was talking to a stakeholder who, sells through wholesale. Vast majority of their business works at the time at Stuart Weitzman, so a massive brand. And she was like, yeah, majority of our business is through wholesale. We know nothing about our customers at all. And we'll get a report from the retailer once a quarter that they'll flash on a screen for 30 minutes that broadly talks about who the customer is, and what their sales have looked like for that quarter. And that's all they get. So this is like this, hundred multi-hundred-million-dollar business. They know literally nothing about their customers. I started Bridge in 2020, in the pandemic, when there was really this convergence of brands. And so your retail only brands that, traditionally just had this wholesale model, never had a direct relationship with their customers, were forced to set up an e-commerce presence because it was COVID, everyone was stuck at home, no one was going to stores, and so, of course there was this huge e-commerce boom. And so these retailers started, or these brands started to understand and know the value of having a direct relationship with their customer. But because everyone was moving toward e-commerce, it got really expensive to acquire customers digitally. And so your traditional like D2C brands were moving into channels like Amazon and retail faster than ever. So really this, convergence of brands and this emergence of the word omnichannel, which is, what a lot of what we're here to talk about today. And so this is kind of what I've seen from the, both the brand side and the consumer side. But then bringing it back to Brij, how we come in is that we're connecting the customer and the brand across all of the channels that they sell through. And so we have a couple of different ways that we do that. We talk about kind of four main pillars that we support from a use case perspective. So it's content and education, and so that could be, how to set up your uh, humidifier. Or it could be, recipes to, to use your Momofuku sauce. So that would be, the content and education side. Another core pillar is first party data collection. So with cookies going away, with Amazon and retail being such a large portion of a brand's channel kind of distribution, owning a customer is more important than ever. And so we help a brand collect emails, SMS, as well as zero party data, like different preferences of a customer, to bring that into their, owned environment, because we believe a brand empowered with more data will be more successful across all of the brands that they sell through. And, I view this as a harmonious relationship with retail. Um, a third is kind of build loyalty and reorder. So this could be reorder through your own D2C, or it could be, replenishing through retail. But by owning that customer, we make it really easy to, further grow that customer lifetime value, whether that's in retail or online. And then the fourth is driving retail velocity. So we've, consistently seen this as a problem for brands that in retail, they have very few tools to help, drive that sell through at retail. And so we have a couple tools as it relates to in-store education as well, encouraging purchase. So that's kind of the main use cases. As it relates to how Brij facilitates those, we have a couple of different tools. One is QR code experiences. So this can be on the product, it could be, on a shelf talker, it could be out of home on a billboard, it could be post purchase on an insert. So it's like, how can you bring a content experience that's curated for that specific environment to those different offline touch points? So that's, a main kind of functionality or distribution method of Brij. And we also have a digital rebate solution. And so what this allows you to do is you can share it as a brand through your owned channels like email, SMS, your website, or through a QR code in store. And it allows you to incentivize a customer to purchase. So when they click the link, it provides an offer. So buy one can or buy one bottle of or one jar of Momofuku and get one free. Customer texts in their receipt. It's all totally web based. And we're validating those receipts via AI, and Venmoing a customer, the end customer, their rebate for that purchase. So the advantage of this tool is it helps encourage purchase in store. So retailers love it. It allows you as a brand to support your retail, but then it also gives you more data about your customers. So over and over again, we hear from brands that retail and their customers are a black box. Now the brand knows who that customer is who purchased their product, as well as exactly what they purchased. So they're getting that basket analysis as well as the first party data of their customer. So it's a really powerful tool that is, really an alternative to the traditional and very archaic couponing system, which, is an entire kind of uh, challenge in its own right as it relates to just like the lack of data, the clearinghouse process, which is a mess. There's, so many problems with the coupon space. So to sum it up, Bridge really thinks about themselves as this omni-channel marketing and data company that allows brands to collect data, share content, drive retail velocity, so that they can, have this connected experience or omni-channel experience for their customers across all the channels that they sell through.
Got it. So Bridge essentially started out as a bridge for on offline to online, but now it's a way to build relationship with your customer.
Exactly. Hmm.
Amazing. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Kate. So we'll move to the next segment, which is help us unpack evolving customer expectations. Like, how have customer expectations changed, especially with the onset of different technologies and with the rise of omnichannel?
Hmm. So I think that since consumers have been able to shop digitally, there's and technology evolving around AI personalization, and kind of the speed of feedback. Consumers want things more personalized, and they want them immediately. It's just become the expectation, and I think a consumer shopping through online has created this expectation that is pouring over into the retail environment, so they want to have that personalized experience, have that educated experience, but the reality is a lot of that doesn't exist in retail yet, so there is this massive disconnect that exists between what a brand can provide to their customers around personalization and kind of that immediacy of kind of response time and feedback. And that's just really hard. There's very few tools that exist for a brand to provide that same experience in retail.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. And so I think this is something that I had also experienced that, especially in the digital world, the customer expectation is has actually gone up dramatically, and um, in customer support we see that on a day-to-day basis, right? If they raise a ticket, um, if they raise an issue and it is not resolved within an hour, they would immediately go and just complain on social media, and like, a simple issue goes public very soon. And
Hmm.
I think customers have this expectation of instant gratification, and they want done things faster
Hmm.
with a much better delivery experience, and you know and they want it in instant speed.
Hmm.
That's something that we're seeing play out. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're even seeing it, that a consumer wants that instant gratification, and that a human can't possibly be fast enough. It's like you go on your chat, you want something immediately. You also want it to feel like a human. Like if you're going through all these different chat bot, robot answers, that can be a little bit frustrating. Um, and people want to be able to like self help themselves as well, so it's like giving them the tools to get that instant gratification how they want it. So sometimes you want to talk to a human instantly to get that feedback. Sometimes you just want the detailed instructions to like self help. Whether that's submitting a return, etc. We're actually seeing that in our customer base on Bridge. When we first started out, we would, support those customers. We have a great support team, but they didn't want to wait for that human response. They wanted to be able to self help. So, to help solve that, we've created this pretty robust knowledge center so that you can kind of tinker yourself, in a way, as you mentioned, that instant gratification.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you, and so specifically on that, I wanted to double click on one aspect of this of customer expectation. How do you really understand customer expectation? And I believe that Bridge could be a great way to capture that feedback, right?
Mhm.
Because it's it helps you build a direct relationship with your customer. So I wanted to dig deeper, and would urge you to share specific instances where customer feedback actually led to significant changes in, in a business strategy,
Mm.
leveraging
Yeah.
Bridge.
So something that we hear a lot from our brands, maybe they started digitally natively, but Amazon is kind of their fastest growing channel, or retail is their fastest growing channel. And so, taking Canopy, for example, they're a humidifier brand, and the customer experience, there's these points that can be pretty sensitive. Specifically when you're changing the filter. The filter is kind of like the changing the filter process can be confusing. So it's this point of potential negativity towards the brand, because it's like not a pleasant experience, or having to change a filter and not knowing how to do it could be a negative experience. So Canopy actually uses a Bridge QR code inside their device, where you can scan to, watch a video on how to change the filter. And you also can reorder the filters. So, what could be this negative customer experience can now instead be like a seamless one that allows the consumer to, easily kind of change their filters and then actually reorder more. So I think that that's a really good example of how a brand is thinking about this touch point with their customer where they're not there. They don't have this way to kind of educate the customer in the physical world, but they're able to provide this more, seamless consumer journey. So that's one example of, I think a brand that is doing it really well. That this could be a negative experience that they turn into a positive one, and actually driving revenue as well. Another example of kind of taking feedback from their customers. So Momofuku, will ask customers they're using our survey functionality, from they have a QR code on their product, and they ask the spiciness preference of their customers. And one of the things that they've learned from kind of asking this from their customers is that they want to kind of formulate a less spicy version of their product. So they've actually used the kind of survey and customer feedback to think about creating a less spicy line of product. Further, they're using this, information from their customers to help segment their customers as well. So, they're able to take those attributes on spiciness and then, bring that into their Klaviyo flows so that when they're talking to their customers, they know, okay, these are the customers that like spicy. These are the customers that like more mild, and they can provide a more personalized, post purchase and kind of conversational experience with their customers because they have those different attributes.
Yeah. Wow. Those are great examples, Kate. Thanks for sharing them. And I think, especially, most of the brands that have tried to implement some form of, for example, when I buy a router, I see that there are some tech specifications, model number, etc., etc. Whenever
Mhm.
there's an issue with the router, I actually have to go and Google those, that model,
Yeah.
and it's not a great experience. But something simple as just putting a QR code so you can just diagnose that problem can actually be a great way to deliver an exceptional customer experience. And something simple as that, um, you know when thought right, can actually lead to a good experience. In fact, I also see lately a lot of brands are putting QR code that has their app link, but I think it's still a very surface level. I think if thought, for example, if done well, if they actually leverage Bridge correctly, they will be able to to surface the right information at
Yes.
the right time,
That
right?
is
And
that is very well articulated. The right information at the right time. And actually, I'm maybe jumping ahead, but I just want to make this point. I think, you mentioned that a brand will, point a QR code to their app. Another thing that we see as like a suboptimal customer experience is a brand just pointing a QR code to their website. Your website has a wealth of information, but what you want to be thinking about to like optimize, it's like the right information at the right time is exactly the way to articulate that. You don't need the whole website. You want to know now, okay, if this point, this time is my post-purchase customer journey. No, I actually want to know, I don't need to know why I want to buy the product. I want to know how to use the product, how to set up the product, how to clean the product. That's an
Yeah.
entirely different type of information than the information that I would be served on how to, like, what I want to know to buy the product. And so that's a really great example. So, we're also just kind of bringing that through. We're working with Black Diamond Equipment. They're a large kind of ski and outdoor company, and they sell these really technical products. And so, what we have a QR code on each, different type of product, which allows a customer to have this um, tailored videos on how to set up their product. They don't need to know why to buy the product at this point. They've already purchased it. And by the way, they're often purchasing it through retail. The vast majority of their distribution is through retail. So, what we Brij enable for Black Diamond is a consumer registers the product. So that's kind of the data capture play, and the registers the warranty, and then the consumer can see the setup videos. They have these trekking poles that are highly technical. There's like a very specific way to set it up correctly, and so that's the right information at the right time. And I think that curation of content for the customer is what really can change that customer experience, as opposed to like navigating through the website and trying to find the information that you need at that point in time, which is a suboptimal customer experience.
Yeah, agree. I totally agree with that, Kate. Thanks for sharing the example. I wanted to double click on another aspect of customer experience. Like, what are the some of the common pitfalls that brands should avoid when designing their customer experience strategy?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, kind of just pointing to the website, that is like the most common pitfall that we're seeing right now. Another just, related to QR codes in general, because that becomes a common kind of distribution method of Bridge. One is not having a clear call to action. So, you know, brands will ask me all the time, do people scan QR codes? Yes, they do. We, have a brand, Feastables, that drives 1 million scans per month through Bridge. So
Wow.
obviously, Feastables has Mr. Beast. We don't expect that kind of engagement from every brand. However, like the consumer behavior is there. That's like people know how to scan a QR code and are willing to do so. But what a brand needs to think about, and this is where kind of the suboptimal comes in, is you have to tell the consumer that scanning the QR code is for them, and you have to tell them why they care. Because, and so that, like, the first step there is the call to action. Because if you're not explicit to the consumer that it's like for them to scan the QR code, why are they going to do so? Second, give them value. So if that value is a sweepstakes, if that value is, how to set up their product, it's important for them to know why they want to scan. Done poorly, there's the QR code is too small. It's like hidden on the packaging. It's like, okay, if the consumer can't find it, they're not going to scan it. Second, if there's no call to action, they don't know. Like maybe the consumer like thinks it's for the manufacturer. Like there's not just you're not going to scan it just because it's there. Like you need to know why you're scanning it. So those are two critically important elements of kind of creating that optimal experience. And then, once the consumer scans, you want to think about, what the journey is that they are on. If they're scanning a billboard, that's much more kind of an awareness play versus if it's post purchase. You're thinking about they already own the product. What do we want them to know? Is it setup? Is it recipes? And so, really thinking about the content curation to what that consumer will care about in that specific environment. So, I would say those are kind of some of the common pitfalls that we'll see.
Yeah, and I think especially when it comes to um, poor experiences, there are so many examples that brands that just launch something because everyone is doing it,
Mm,
but not really thinking customer backwards, and that sort of makes a difference between your brand versus why a brand should will become popular. For example, Feastables, all they did was, as you pointed out, they just nailed one user journey right,
mhm.
and they were able to magnify delightful experiences for their customers, right? And I think um, there are so many technology tools that are available, um, where brands can actually use um, that brands can actually use to amplify their customer experience. And I think Bridge does an exceptional job of delivering that. On that segue, I wanted to move to the next segment, which is leveraging technology and data. What are some of, like, from, because you've been in this ecosystem for quite some time, what are some of the examples of brands leveraging technology to enhance the customer journey, and especially with respect to Bridge?
Yeah. So I will use an example of one of our customers, Sapporo Stone. They're actually, separate brands, but they're run by the same company. So Sapporo is, a Japanese beer, like large beer company, and Stone is kind of yeah, LA or West Coast based beer company. So speaking to them specifically because alcohol companies have an extra hard problem because of the three-tier system. So, with basically distributors and the way in which alcohol brands are distributed. And so when we met the team at Sapporo Stone, they were, already thinking about running sweepstakes, and they were already thinking about, using rebates, but they had these really archaic tools, and it was like kind of this really separate customer experience. So they were able to distribute a rebate through the other tool, but not educate the customer on the brand. So they felt that that was like really this lost customer experience. When they started, what they liked about Bridge was that they were able to, we have kind of this drag and drop builder where a brand can choose, we call them modules, but they can choose what modules they want to display to a customer. And that could include education and a rebate, etc. So they can create this, curated customer journey, and so they're like, what we love about this is we're not there in the store to, provide this education to the customer. So, when we just send a rebate without that content perspective, we're really losing out on a lot of that customer journey. And so, what they like about Bridge is that they're able to kind of pull those. It doesn't need to just be this transactional benefit to the customer. It can be kind of a brand building exercise as well. And that was something that we've seen work really well for Sapporo Stone. And now they're actually using Bridge landing pages, not just kind of in store. So they're using it, point of sale for rebates, for sweepstakes, for customer education. They're actually also running paid ads to our landing pages as well to become these content and transactional. So they're, it's content about the brand, but then you also can, sign up with email to, have access to learn more. And so they've been able to, see success kind of across different distribution methodologies. But, kind of stepping back as it relates to, a brand using technology, I think that there's like a modern tech stack that, you know, I'd really recommend. And it's, Shopify Klaviyo on the kind of, e-commerce side and the email side. And now, Klaviyo does SMS as well. That's kind of like the modern tech stack that we see most brands using. And then, there's a couple of other tools that we're, starting to see emerge as kind of, best in class for their respective. I would say probably another one is Recharge on the subscription side. Um, and so those are, what we'll frequently see kind of brands leveraging. And where Bridge really fits into that stack is for omni-channel brands, for brands that are selling, in retail, and that doesn't need to be owned retail. It could also be, kind of wholesale or dealer relationships. That Bridge can help, but be that tool set for those brands selling in these offline channels.
Yeah, yeah, and I kind of agree with this that um, today Clavio, Shopify, Recharge, and including Bridge are increasingly becoming the gold standard for delivering great experiences. So thanks, Kate, for sharing those nuggets. So we'll move on to the next segment, which is about cracking a unique go-to market around customer experience, right? And so, Kate, I wanted to double click on this. Like, what have you tried and then seen successful, especially when it comes to go-to market?
So is this me as a software provider going to market, or is
Yeah,
it the brands going to market?
yeah. As a software provider, this is
Hmm.
for all the all the SaaS companies that are targeting.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a really great question. I would say that our most important go to market tool has been my presence on LinkedIn. And so we're employing a strategy called Founder Brand. And, basically the thesis behind that is that people buy from people. And that, by me sharing content on LinkedIn to partners, to prospects, to customers, that they're able to learn more about Bridge and the capabilities that we have. And I would say that's been kind of the single, business changing decision that we've made is kind of being more active on LinkedIn. I post every single day, so could not recommend that more. My content ranges from kind of being a founder, more specifically being a female founder and some of the, specific things that I deal with, but then, kind of building a tool in omnichannel and what problems there exist in omnichannel. And then, more specifically kind of bottom of funnel case studies, examples, product information. And I think that we are finding that that becomes a way to have a one to many strategy for both our customers. So, when we launch a new product, we talk about it on LinkedIn. And then that becomes a way for not just our customers, but prospects and partners to hear about us. So that's like, I would say, the most important go to market strategy that we implement. um, we have done cold email pretty well. I would say that as a kind of go to market strategy used to be, about a third of our leads, and now it's decreasing. I would say it's becoming a little bit less effective than it used to be. LinkedIn increasingly is a better channel for us, even kind of messaging via LinkedIn. When we think about outbound at all, we've found that in the brand category that brands care a lot about their very specific vertical. So, for example, we have a very specific solution and pain point that we're solving for baby brands around a new regulation called AB 899. And so we're working with Serenity Kids, which is a very reputable baby brand, to help solve this problem. And so then we go down across all the baby brands, and talk baby food brands and kind of, talk to them about how we can solve this problem. Very effective strategy. We've done it successfully in other categories as well. So call it outdoor. working with Black Diamond, now we're working with Gosney, which is kind of this like pizza oven brand that they're crushing it. So the more specific you can be as it relates to the vertical, the problem that you solve for that vertical, even though technically your solution may, do the same thing for different brands, the language that you use is different in different verticals. So, for example, we talk about product registration for the verticals like outdoor and consumer electronics. That collection of email technically is the same for what we would do when we distribute a recipe book in exchange for email collection for Catalina Crunch or Momofuku, but the language that we use is very different. So I would say kind of like vertical messaging is very important there. And then the last strategy that I will mention that has been really important for us as well as events. So it's trade shows and it's industry events. Brands like spend time there. For us specifically, trade shows are very successful because brands are there to meet retailers, which is exactly kind of the inflection point. Sasha, and you and I met at Expo West, which is a huge one for us. Brands are there to meet retailers. That's exactly the type of ICP that we're focused on. So events have been a very successful strategy for us to kind of break through the noise of the digital way to get in touch with brands, to meet them face to face and kind of give them a quick pitch on our product.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Kate. I'm curious. Do you remember any anecdote that a brand shared of how they discovered Bridge that and they just found it interesting?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the LinkedIn kind of example being the most important, I would say like Gosney, who's one of our newer customers, the CMO requested me on LinkedIn. He had read one of my like case study posts. And so then we were connected on LinkedIn. And then he DM'd me after I posted about connecting the offline and online in one of my posts, and he was like, "This is exactly what we're looking for. Would love to set up a demo, and now they're a customer of ours." So that's like a very specific anecdote of how a brand discovered us through LinkedIn and then became a customer. As it relates to kind of other kind of strategies. We ask them, how they heard about Bridge, to see where we should continue to reinvest from a go to market perspective.
Got it. Thanks a lot, Kate, for sharing those experiences. And I think this brings us to the end of our podcast. And I again cannot thank you enough, Kate, for taking out the time for sharing such valuable insights to all our listeners. And yeah, to everyone who's listening in, please remember to apply these customer experience strategies to improve your omnichannel retail experience. And increasingly, a customer that comes to you, they won't be particular about a specific channel, and they will be present across different types of channels, and you will have to design and curate strategies that works across, and Bridge helps you deliver that. Kate, thank you so much again for taking out the time today.
Happy to. I really enjoyed the conversation, Sasha, and thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Kate. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.